right there. 1 minute, folks. 1 minute. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Patriot Nation TV. I'm your host, Tim Davis, your New Age Patriot with a 1776 attitude. Today is Sunday, May 1st, 2021. So I'm going to do a video tonight. I'm going to do a video tonight that is very touchy. It's taboo to talk about. It's definitely taboo if you happen to be white or black conservative Christian male or Jewish male at that point. And it's all over news all the time. It's being forced down our throat every day in our schools, in our athletics, everything. What exactly am I talking about? Racism. What does racism mean? I don't know, you tell me. I'm going to tell you what I'm thinking. But what I'm noticing is racism today is being introduced as a tool of the Marxist ideology to overtake and overthrow America. As Vladimir Lenin said back in like 1917, 1918, the goal of socialism is communism. And from that point, over 100 years, we could say it's 2021, so from 1921 to present, we've seen bits and pieces of this socialism plaguing us, chipping away at everything, from Woodrow Wilson, FDR, LBJ, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, and now Joe Biden. They used tactics such as Rules for Radical by Saul Alinsky, who actually gave a blueprint which coincides with the coward Piven strategy, and so on and so on. So basically what I'm going to say is this. Is communism being slipped into the United States of America under the guise of racism? I say yes. It's one of the tools. So with that being said, what does racism mean in 2021? Not much. When everything is racist and racism, nothing is racism. The United States of America is not a racist nation. Or the bigots? Sure. There are, but the word racism has been cheapened, watered down. Over the past 30 years, I started to realize that racism was just a means to an end. It is a way for the NAACP, Jesse Jackson, Al Gore, to gain celebrity status. It is more annoying than anything else. Over the past year that we just witnessed, past couple of years, really the past year, racism has taken on a nefarious definition. Communism. The communists in the government and our government tried to usher in communism by coming out and saying democratic socialism was better than capitalism. As it turns out, socialism was a losing message, as it was in the early last century. In the 60s, 90s, 2010s, it's a losing message. Enough people came from socialist countries and remember the horrors of the life they left behind, or the Cold War with Soviet Russia. And they're alive today. So, what is the plan? What's plan B? These Marxists, under the guise of liberalism, progressivism, democratic socialist, or Democratic Party. What is plan B? It's racism. That's what it is. The communists know that nothing divides Americans like racism. The stigma of being called a racist can make people do anything, and they know it. The government, the media, academia, and companies are now pushing equity instead of the American idea of equality. Equity, by definition, is communism. Equity means that everyone gets the same outcome, no matter how hard you work and how little your neighbor does. You both get the same share of the pie. That is the promise of communism. Equality, the American idea, is that everyone gets the opportunity to succeed. Some may choose not to work very hard and earn minimum wage, while others take risks, start a business, join a union, raise a family, and live the American dream. You know, that's the take of it. So, where am I going with this? How am I putting this into how communism is being slipped into America under the guise of racism? This is the new racism. This is a new racism. This new racism I'm speaking of divides blacks against blacks. They have a different opinion of the liberals. They call blacks coons, Uncle Toms, sellouts, traitors, etc., etc. This new racism divides blacks against whites, whites against whites, Hispanic against Hispanic, Hispanic against whites, and so on and so on. Unfortunately, this harms the black Americans the most under the charade of civil rights. Let's get something straight. Racism only applies to African Americans. No other race gets the benefits of this new communism. Rarely do you hear about racism against or benefiting any other race. It may be tempting to point out, what happened a few weeks ago, the murder of the Koreans in Atlanta, as they try to blame whiteness and white people and Trump voters. We've seen it all over the news, all over social media. I even had heated debates over it. What they didn't tell you, the majority of violence against Asians, were and are committed by black Americans. Generally speaking, white kills white people more, Hispanics kill Hispanics more, and blacks kill black people more. Most often, that's the case. You're a victim of your surroundings. But there is one exception. There is one exception. Black on Asian violence. The human centipede media. That's what they are. They're centipedes. They just eat everything up. The media is the enemy. So I'm going to call them centipedes. The human centipede media didn't tell you this because it would go against the narrative that whites are the problem. Everything's blaming the white people. Like I said, it goes against the narrative that whites are the problem. It is not a recent phenomenon. We can look back to 1992 when the Black Korean violence fueled the LA riots. And unfortunately, presenting facts today in 2021, historical facts, does not divide people. It does not help the implementation of communism. The centipede media and the leftists pretend to care about Asians, yet they openly discriminate. They don't even care about black people or Hispanics. They only care about power. As I was saying, they openly discriminate. Harvard and Yale, Ivy League schools, are open about their policy of discrimination against Asians. In fact, Joe the Tyrant, Biden, dropped a DOJ lawsuit against Yale for discriminating against Asians. Black Lives Matter, or Black Lives Matter, has an open policy of breaking up the traditional family in the USA, yet they are allowed to blackmail corporations. Their name says it all. It's in their name. Try to say Asian lives matter, or white lives matter, or Jewish lives matter, or Christian lives matter, and you will be censored faster than you can say the words. Because it censors you. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Black Americans now want their own separate society. The liberal blacks, not the conservative black Americans. The liberal Marxists, because they are Marxist. They want their own separate society. And they're getting it. Started in the 60s with the Black Caucus. They have separate graduation classes. And they get any demand they want. Key word there is separate. It's Marxism. People of all races, all religions, all genders can see what's going on. We can all see it. Everybody knows it. Everybody's afraid to talk about it. Me, one man, one opinion, Professor X. I'm going to speak upon it. It is what it is. It is what it is. And like I said, people of all races see what's going on. We all know it. And wonder what happened to all the, we all got to sit back and say, what happened to the progress the U.S. has made over the last 55, 60 years? It does not make sense, people. And it shouldn't. Racism today is not about civil rights. It is about gaining power and taking down America. That's what it's all about. It's taking down America and gaining power. And it's a scary thing that's going on. It's really scary. I mean, I can go back to Booker T. Washington. He wrote about this back in early last century, the early 1900s. And it's just history. It's not me. It's not me. I'm going to quote him. I'm going to quote two things he said. This is Booker, the great Booker T. Washington. There is another class of colored people who make a business of keeping the troubles, the wrongs, and the hardships of the Negro race before the public. Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, Van Jones, Whoopi Goldberg, people like that, Maxine Waters, people like that come to my mind. I don't know if they come to your mind, but to my mind, that's what they come to. Having learned that they are able to make a living out of their troubles, they have grown into a settled habit of advertising their wrongs, partly because they want sympathy, and partly because it pays, and it pays well. Some of these people do not want the Negro to lose their grievances because they do not want to lose their jobs. Booker T. Washington said that back in 1908. Also, the great Booker T. Washington added on, where he said there was a certain class of race problems, or a certain class of race problem solvers who don't want the patient to get well. Because as long as the disease holds out, they have not only an easy means of making a living, but also an easy medium to which to make themselves prominent before the public. That's Booker T. Washington. And we see that. We see that's going on. And people also got to understand this. Poverty is a commodity from an economic point of view. Poverty is a commodity. And that's why Democrats love poverty. It's a commodity. Only way they stay in business. It's a fact, Really got to sit back and say to yourselves, you're not white, you're not black, you're not yellow, you're not brown. You're an American, for Christ's sake. You're an American. Start acting like it, okay, people? Put the bias in the media narrative. Put it aside. It's all BS. It's BS. They're baffling you with bullshit because they can't douse you with brilliance. And, like I quoted Lenin, they're useful idiots. You're useful idiots out there. And it's just really, really bad. You got to look at it. How did it all start? They started out as Marxists, then communists, then socialists, then liberals, then progressives, then social democrats. This is over 100 years. Same game, different names. They change the name as people catch on. That's the key to it. They change the name as people catch on. And they're really pushing this Marxist narrative. You know, they're using tactics of Saul Alinsky 101. Accuse your opponent of what you are doing to create confusion and inoculate voters against evidence of your guilt. And people are falling for it. They really are falling for it. It's unbelievable. And so the thing is this. Are we playing into their hands? Are we playing into their plan? One man, one opinion. I say yes, we are. As Saul Alinsky said in one of his books, How to Create a Socialist State, there are 8 levels of control that must be obtained before you are able to create a socialist state. The first is the most important: healthcare. Control health and you control the people. That's number 1. Number 2, increase poverty level as high as possible. People are easier to control and will not fight back if you are providing everything for them to live. Third, debt. Increase the debt to an unsustainable level. That way you are able to increase taxes, and this will produce more poverty. 4, gun control. Remove the ability to defend themselves from government. That way you are able to create a police state. We're seeing it happening, right? It's not me. It's really happening. Then you got number 5, welfare. Take control of every aspect of their lives: food, housing, income, education, etc., etc. Now we are over number 6, education. Take control of what people read and listen to. Take control of what children learn in school. See what's happening? Number 7, religion. Remove the belief of God from government and schools. This is all going on in the 50s and 60s. And number 8, class warfare under the guise of racism. But it's class racism. Leon Trotsky wrote this, the definition of racism. It was basically class warfare. Today America, we say racism. We use color of people's skins. Divide the people into wealthy and the poor. The wealthy and the poor. This will cause more discontent and will be easier to take tax. To steal people's money from the wealthy with the support of the poor. Does this sound like what's happening today in the United States? All Alinsky did was merely simplify Vladimir Lenin's original scheme for world conquest by communism under Russian rule. Stalin described his converts as useful idiots. The useful idiots have destroyed every nation in which they have seized power and controlled. It is presently happening at an alarming rate in the U.S. It is difficult to free fools from the chains they already wear. It's happening. And they realized Americans and American people were catching on to this coward Piven strategy, this Saul Alinsky rules for radical strategy. So they incorporated another way of doing it through racism. That's what they did. And we're playing right into their plan. We are borderline socialists. But the goal of socialism, as Lenin said over 100 years ago, the ultimate goal is communism. And that's what brought me to what I said about how communism's being slipped into America under the guise of racism. So let me just end this by saying this. Number 1, you cannot legislate the poor into prosperity. You can't. It just doesn't happen. Number 2, what one person receives without working for, another person must work for without receiving. Number 3, the government cannot give to anybody anything that the government did not at first steal from somebody else. Welfare, Medicaid, everything else. Number 4, you cannot multiply wealth by dividing it. Number 5, when half the people get the idea that they do not have to work because the other half is going to take care of them, and when the other half gets the idea it does no good to work because somebody else is going to get what they worked for, that, my friends, is the beginning of the end of a nation. Just one man, one opinion. That's where we are. This is what I see that's happening. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think. Did I cross the line? I don't think so. And if I did, I don't care. That's just one man, one opinion. And I'm not going to be intimidated or silenced. I'm not. Just what it is. I don't care what anybody says, what they think. It is what it is. So basically, at the end of the day, you are all alone in your mind. Some days it's a good thing. Others it is not. Other days it's not. Circumstances never change. You cannot escape being alone in your own mind. It is you, the individual, who have to come to grips and terms of what's going on and make the ultimate sacrifices and decisions for you, the individual. We cannot continue going down this path. We can't let these cultural Marxists keep chipping away at our liberties. We cannot let these woke culture intimidate, dox, and steal away our nation under the guise of racism, which is being perpetrated into our system, and it's really communism, because these liberal wackadoos, these lunatics realize their gig is up. And that's all the Democrats have left. Racism. That's it. And every 10 to 20 years is a whole new generation of people voting. So that's my little rant for today, for tonight. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. I gotta ask, please hit like, hit subscribe, leave a comment. And I guess I'm going to sign out. Morning comes quick. And so I guess I'll talk to you guys soon. God bless you, and God bless America. Bye-bye.